I have some pretty interesting friends, and one of them you're going to meet today is a guy by the name of David. Now, David lives on a street that you've heard me talk about before, in a canyon you've heard me talk about before, and where something very interesting and fascinating and horrible happened back in 1969, which you've heard me talk about before. Now, David lives in this house that is 100% haunted. You don't have to believe me, and David doesn't care if you do either, but 100% is haunted, as you're going to hear about in today's video. Every ghost show has been up there. My gosh, Ghost Hunters, My Ghost Stories, Ghost Adventures, Haunted History, they have all gone to David's house, and they've all come up with some pretty interesting evidence that the paranormal does exist. And some of those clips you're actually going to see peppered throughout this you're going to see peppered throughout this video. David made a movie, and it's recently been made available on Vimeo, and there's a link to it down in the description below. It's called The House at the End of the Drive. As we're heading up to David's house to talk to him, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movie. Well, first of all, I'm going to show you a clip from the movie, and then on the way up, I'll tell you a little bit more about the movie and a little bit more about David's house, and then we'll talk to David. And I think you'll find it really interesting, and he's a very interesting friend, and he's been good and generous to me and to my guests who I brought up to his house, and some of them are pretty well known. I brought Bridget Marquardt from the Girls Next Door, and even Kesha, and a few other people that that you may have heard of. But anyway, David's house is a magnet for a whole lot of stuff, and you're going to hear about that today. So join me. First, here's a clip from The House at the End of the Drive, and join me with my chat with David.
I thought you said nobody came up here. Some tourists at the gate at the end of the drive taking pictures. You say you worked on this place? What can you tell me about it?
The place is too new to have any kind of history.
You know what I'm talking about.
There was some.
As you can see, there's the Cielo Drive street sign, and you might recognize that intersection behind me, because that was featured quite a lot in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when Sharon and Roman or Brad Pitt came down, wheeling down that hill and burning out and heading down Cielo. So on the night of the murders of August 8, 1969, 59 Ford was parked right there. Tex drove the car up to the top, cut the phone lines. They coasted the car back down there, which is no easy feat. Parked there and went up on foot. And that's where we're heading. Now, whenever I come up here to visit David, I will always walk like they did that night. So we're heading up to the Oman house to see my buddy David, who I've known for probably almost close to 20 years. And this house has become more and more infamous because of the hauntings in this house. And I told you many times how I feel about Benedict Canyon. This is the path. This is the path the killers drove up, drove down, and walked up. And the people that lived in the house came down in coroner's vehicles. And of course they used as much as they could in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That hasn't changed since 1969. When it comes to paranormal activity, sometimes electronic equipment can behave a little weirdly. And during the interview, several times my camera malfunctioned. Twice completely by power. I mean, just completely wiped out power, which were full batteries. And other times, the volume would just arbitrarily go silent, wavering. So it's this sort of stuff does affect your electronics. One of the blurbs from David's movie, The House at the End of the Drive, says that it's inspired by true events that shocked the world and to this day still frighten people everywhere. The film was shot on location on this street, the infamous Cielo Drive, a stone's throw away from where the Tate murders occurred in 1969. Now, in the film, supernatural forces from the past transport the dinner guests through time back to the night of the original murders, and in a cruel twist of fate, they materialize as the soon-to-be victims of the massacre. So, through time travel, they realize that they are the victims. But the twist is, they went back in time. But the other twist is, each of them represents one of the victims, and they know ahead of time what's going to happen. So they're able to prepare themselves. It's a great movie. It's good fun. Mudslides. And here's David's house. And I know he sees us. Here on Cielo Drive with my buddy David, who I was thinking on the way up here, it's about 20 years we've known each other about, I think.
Yeah, I've been here for 22 years, and I think I met you 20 years ago here when you were bringing up. I think you were across the canyon with the band, and I drove over there and I introduced myself. And I said, "No, come on over." He goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, come on over." And then you came up, and I've met so many different people through you, and I'm friends with them still. Scott Keith is one of them, the psychic medium, who I met when you came up here once. And you know, I just can't tell you how great an experience it's been knowing you and being your friend for the past 20 years. Because it's like, oh, there's Scott. I said, oh, I'm going to drive over up the hill, and there you are. It's like, oh, can I bring him? It's like, yeah, bring the people over. Come on, let's check out the house.
He's always been really, really kind and generous with us. Because, I mean, Cielo Drive, I've been sneaking up here for 30 years or 40, whatever it's been. So it's sort of like nice to have permission and know that I can tell the people, actually, no, my buddy's over here.
Right.
But you've made a lot of people really happy. Happy is a weird word for it, but this is history. They wanted to see it. They never, ever in a million years thought they'd be able to come up here.
It's true.
So it means a lot to a lot of people.
No, and I think that you can't say that it hasn't made them happy, because it has. I've seen the expression on the people that you've brought in to visit, and their appreciation of the chance to come here and for me to tell them my story and the story of what I know of the Sharon Tate murders. I think that the right word is happy, that they are happy and excited to do so.
In a weird way.
I don't even want to discount it in a weird way. I know you do, but I guess I've kind of morphed into a death hag in a sense that I always have been, but I find it interesting that people are still curious about that. And again, we don't focus on the way they died. We focus on the fact that these people were viable human beings that had lives in front of them and were cut short. That's really what it's about. And in that way, we're venerating their memory. We're not exploiting it. We're not playing down to the lowest common denominator, how they died. That's just not something we focus on. The tragedy is the tragedy, but these people were quality individuals that
still have stuff to say. They still have stuff to say.
They still have stuff to say, and they still have vested interest in how they're portrayed in the public. And to me, I feel almost like the standard bearer in a sense for their memory, because there's nobody else really in my position that can do that. So I've gladly taken it upon myself to be their mouthpiece in a sense. I know Deborah doesn't ever come here and see me, and I've known that for 20 some odd years.
Yeah, she blows hot and cold, and it's her family. I'd say she's allowed every feeling she has. But you, I want to backtrack in a second, but you chose to build your home on Cielo Drive, which is, I mean, you literally said, I'm going to buy this property on Cielo Drive and build your house on it, and knowing full well that 200 yards is on the road. So I'm not saying that was a good or a bad. I'm not saying it was a bad thing.
No,
but I mean, this was my destiny is Cielo Drive. But before we go any further with that, I have to ask you about the story when you were growing up, the house you grew up in, and your encounter. that happened. You grew up in Beverly Hills.
No, I grew up in Bel Air.
Bel Air, okay.
Right.
What street did you live on?
Linda Fleur Drive.
Okay.
And one of my neighbors on Linda Fleur Drive happened to be Jan Berry, who is famous for being of the music group Jan and Dean.
Dead Man's Curve.
Dead Man's Curve, which was, of course, the story of how Jan in 1966 had that terrible accident in his Corvette and basically put him into the hospital and took part of his brain out, and he was, recuperating through the years as I lived there. What's funny is that in late 1968 and early 1969, my mom used to drive up from Bellagio, was it Moraga, down at the bottom of the hills, we used to call it, at Moraga and Bellagio, where there used to be a place called the Bel Air Shop Easy. And it was a little market there on Sepulveda, and people would congregate there. And so in late 68, early 69, my mom on several occasions picked up hitchhikers at the bottom of Bellagio Road and Moraga. And they were always girls. She was never picking up guys to give them hitchhiking men, but always the girls, because my mom had her daughter who was 8 years older than I, and she was a teenager, and she knew for a fact that people would walk from the bottom of Bellagio to walk up to the house, and it was terrifying to her, because she says, as I'm coming down this windy little road, I'd have to avoid hitting somebody walking up the street.
Yeah.
And she says, at any chance and opportunity she would have, she would stop and give these hitchhiking girls rides. And on several occasions, I was in the front seat, and it was a 1968 Cadillac Eldorado. It was silver with burgundy interior. I still remember that car like it's yesterday.
That's awesome.
And
that's a big car for those streets, too.
It's a big car for those streets, yeah. And what was funny is I'd be in the front seat, and the girls would pile into the back seat, and there'd be like 3 or 4 of them. And my mother, again, this is 55 years ago, so she'd be like, hi, I'm Mrs. Oman, had no fear of talking her ass off and saying, I'm Mrs. Oman, this is my son David, introducing us, and who are you? And always trying to make friendly conversation with these people that she was giving a ride to. And then when she got to the house, she'd stop. She goes, well, girls, this is as far as I go. This is my house. And literally pointing out the house in particular.
Yeah.
And looking back upon it, people would go, what, are you crazy? Is this because it was a naivete that was part and parcel to that era?
Yeah.
After the murders, when the murders were discovered, etc., we were watching the news, and during I think it was December or January of '70, we're watching the news, and they're talking about Parker Center and the trial that's happening, and my mom and I and my father and sister sitting there at the dining room table looking at the television set, and my mom goes, when they panned across the girls in front of Parker Center protesting for Manson's release, she goes like this, she goes, oh my God, she goes, those girls, she goes, David, those are the girls that I've given rides to. Some of those girls I've given rides to that were going to Jan's house. And I'm looking and going, oh yeah, that's Jill, that's Sarah, that's such and such. And I'm just going, yeah, that's them, that's them. Later to find out that the girls that my mother was giving rides to that were hitchhikers going up to see Jan Berry were in fact part of the Manson family. Which makes sense because Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys all were connected to Jan and Dean, because their musical style was based upon, primarily inspired by the music of Jan and Dean. So when this all went down, I'm like, holy crap. Fast forward 6 months into July of 1970, I had a bad habit of getting up early before anybody else. And my mom said, if you get up early, don't go wake up the housekeeper to make you breakfast. I want you to do it yourself because she needs to rest and sleep and you can't interrupt her. If you get up at 7:30 in the morning, you make your own breakfast. So the housekeeper taught me how to cook. So I said, this is good. So I go into the kitchen, it's 8 in the morning, everybody's dead asleep. And I go in the kitchen, I turn my head and I look to the left, and I notice the sliding glass door is open about this far. And I'm like, that's not right. I said, and the rule of the house was the last person to be in the kitchen has to be responsible to lock the sliding glass door, put the locks on the entrance door on the side, and make sure all the windows are locked and closed. And I'm thinking, last night I was the last one. I was in there at 10 o'clock and I locked the damn door, and I locked the windows and I locked the side door. as I'm looking outside on the patio around the swimming pool, I noticed that my dad's trousers were on the railing next to in front of the swimming pool. I went outside and I looked and I said, that's my dad's pants. I turned to my right and I look, and on the hedge is my mother's purse and some other things. Then I start looking around and I notice something glinting in the sun across the swimming pool on the patio table. And I go over and I look, and sure enough, there's a Sara Lee coffee cake tin there, and there's the whole cake is there, the lid is off, and there's a piece that's been taken out. Next to the pie tin is a plate with a missing piece of cake and a bite mark out of it. And next to that is a cellophane enclosed or encased Kraft American singlet. And the piece that's not where you lift it up is still there, but the piece when you lift up the wrapper on the one side is gone. And I'm starting to realize that somebody's been in the house while we were asleep last night and has gone into my parents' bedroom when they were asleep and taken the purse right next to the bed where they're sleeping off and bringing it outside, and taken my dad's slacks, which were on the sofa chair next to the bed, and brought them outside. And somebody's shown you that they've gone into the refrigerator and raided the refrigerator and have given you signs. And I'm like, oh shit. So I ran into my parents' bedroom and I woke them up and I said, Mom, Dad, I said, I gotta show you this. And my mom's like, what are you talking about? Show me what? I said, somebody's been in the house while we were asleep. And my mother says, what are you talking about? I said, I told her, I walked her outside, and she goes, oh my God. I said, yeah, I didn't touch anything because I didn't want anything to be disturbed. I wanted to say, this is how I found it. And my mother says, David, it's a good thing that you didn't have one of your sleepwalking incidents. And I said, because I was prone to be sleepwalking as a kid. And she goes, you could have gotten us all killed or something. Mind you, there was no sense of connection between the Manson family and the intruders in the middle of the night. It never dawned upon me until some 7 years later when I'm reading Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
And I got to the point in the book where they're talking about creepy crawl. And then I have a flash of memories coming back to me saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I said, that is who must have been. And then I said, wait a second. Didn't I say earlier that the girls that were hitchhiking with my mom and me were in fact family members of the Manson family? And I started to then connect saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it all just made sense. All the dominoes lined up in order, and I'm thinking, Jan Berry, Dennis Wilson, the Beach Boys, my mother giving them hitchhikers rides. And it was like, oh my God. And I told my mom, and she goes, what do you mean? I said, read this. And I gave her the book, and she read it. She goes, I said, I think that, and my mom was very, 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 very dismissive, because she couldn't wrap her fingers around the thought that that's who they were, and that's who was in the house 6 or 7 months later after the murders were uncovered. So it was very, very unsettling.
And then, okay, I get completely. So then, cutting forward considerably, and I don't mean to discount your life.
Yeah, no. Thanks. It's just, I'm here. Okay, what is it? We don't need that. That's not important. Forget that crap. Respectfully, yes. Forget the rest of your life. We want to go ahead 20 some odd years, yes. And come fast forward to 1998. Some Sunday, about 8 in the morning, in late November, my dad calls me up, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, what? He goes, come on, get up. It's like, Dad, it's 8 in the morning on Sunday morning. I said, I really don't. He goes, shut up. He goes, get up. He goes, I found a lot. It's in Beverly Hills. It's $40,000. At which point I said, Dad, this is in the Sunday classified section because this is way pre-internet. And he says, I said, Dad, does it say 40K in the ad? He goes, yeah. I said, Dad, it's a misprint. It's supposed to say 400K, and they left a zero out. He goes, no, I don't think so. It's in the foreclosure listings. And after this conversation was going on, I started to wake up and saying, all right, I'm not going to get rid of my dad now. This isn't going to be so easy. I said, I'm going to have to accept it and just acknowledge it and make the, so, well, fine, I'll meet you there. He gives me the address. I got out my Thomas guide, which precursor to the Google
remember.
Maps. And I'm thinking, and it's not registering in my head. Cielo Drive,
Yeah.
Sharon Tate. So I drive up here, and it was like this easy to find the place. And I'm like, I got up here, minutes before my dad gets up here, and I'm looking down the driveway, and I'm like, all of a sudden the flood of memories comes zipping over my head, and it's like, you know where you are? That's where shit. And I go on.
You're asking me to look at this
I'm
camera.
asking you to look at the camera because that camera's recording this whole conversation.
Okay.
And Sharon says, you know something? I think we should. I'm going to post this as a YouTube video of just this section right
Yeah.
here to help promote this video because
Yeah.
that happening, you don't have that on there.
Yeah.
She says you got it right there, and that's that just adds a little bit more credibility and curiosity to the house.
Well, yes, I get that because it's
And
been
you-
caught on camera.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
You
you
can't.
know how I feel about this place. I've seen enough of it. I mean, I've seen it I was telling people there was a time, the first time I ever really saw it, because I was very skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
I was very poo-pooey of everything.
Yep.
And David and I were talking here. Exactly right there, and inside the kitchen over on the other side of that bar was I always say there was a stack of Solo cups.
Right.
And as we were talking, that stack just went pow and just went flying, and David
Yep.
goes, yep, there you are.
Don't do it. Wait, please don't do it again. Let him shoot out without overheating the camera.
I hope.
The battery I'm talking about, not the camera, the battery. You guys are draining the battery. Turn it into molten lead, she said.
Right after I told the story about the Solo cups, this starts happening. So, and lots of other things have started happening around here. But what I wanted to do, David, if you don't mind,
Yes.
if you'd show me around a little bit, we're going to get into your film because I really want to talk about your film. But I want to talk a bit about the hauntings, which are well documented. What year was it that you first saw J.C. Brain?
Oh, 20 years ago, July 2004, middle of the night. I put my head down on the pillow, I looked at the clock, and it said 1:37. I then remember falling fast into the deepest sleep. And then, for some reason, I remember my eyes popped open, and I felt like I was asleep for 8 hours. And I looked at the clock, and it says 1:39, and I'm like, 1:39? That's 2 minutes since I put my head on the pillow. And then I remember looking at the foot of the bed, and I see this full-body apparition. I describe it as an apparition because I know it wasn't a person. It was not a physical person. He was, in the darkness, he was illuminated. And it was like a light bulb, like as if you had a light bulb inside of a human effigy, and he was illuminated from within. And I'm looking, and it's strange because I'm looking saying he's lit up, but there's no light source from above, no light source from the side or below. He is just light. And he's full body. He's wearing a 1960s style short lapelled 4-button suit. And I'll never forget it. I'm looking at him, I'm going, who are you? What? And at the time, my mother was dying of cancer, and I thought that it could have been an emissary ghost coming to warn me that when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to get a call from my father, and he's going to be telling me that my mother had passed away in the night.
Mm-hmm.
So based upon that experience, I sat there and looked and stared at this image of this guy, and I didn't recognize him. And I had seen pictures of Jay Sebring, but this guy wasn't wearing those god-awful striped jeans that he was wearing when he was killed. He wasn't wearing the shirt. He was in a full-on suit, and I'll never forget it. And he had his left arm extended, and he was, I'll show you what he's doing. I'll show you. This is the corner of the bed, right here. He's 3 feet away from the left corner, the left corner of the bed, and he's like this, standing like this, and he's like this, his head straight, and from the waist up, he's doing this, little bit of a turn, and he's pointing towards what I at the time thought was the driveway, going away from the property. And he did this 3 times, and he was there for maybe between 5 and 10 seconds. And I'm looking at him, and I'll never forget, it's all in shades of gray. So his skin is this powder, light shade of gray. His hair is a charcoal gray. It's not straight like my hair. It's kinky. It's kinked hair over parted to the side. And again, I'm looking at him thinking, what? My mom's dead? What, my girlfriend who's flying the European route is dead? What are you here to tell me? And after he made the third turn, he just vanished. I get up out of bed and I would start walking around thinking, what the hell was that? And mind you, my entire life I'd been dying to see an apparition.
Yeah.
Just I want to see a ghost. And I just had the first time and I'm like, I don't know. And I spent the next hour walking around, came upstairs, gave myself a shot of whiskey, which I don't drink, but I needed to, just to calm my nerves and say, and it wasn't scary, it was more like concerned, because I wasn't going to call my mom and dad up at 2 in the morning and say, hey, and I couldn't get in touch with my girlfriend who was in Europe flying somewhere, so I basically just sat there and tried to deal with it and wrap my thoughts around it, and then I went to bed. The following morning, I called my dad up at 8 in the morning, and I said, Dad, is Mom okay? He goes, yeah, she's fine, she's right here, and I'm like, one sigh of relief, that's a good thing, it wasn't regarding that. And then about 3 days later, I do believe I got a call from my girlfriend in Europe, and she goes, I said, how are you? She goes, I'm fine, nothing, and I didn't tell her anything, I didn't want to freak her out. Fast forward about 8, maybe 9 years, the property next door to me, which is a vacant lot, gets sold. A couple months later, I'm woken up in the morning to the sound of big earth-moving equipment rumbling down, working next door, and the house is starting to vibrate, at which point they started to literally take the hillside that's like this and start to, with the earth-moving equipment, starting to remove and grade down the hill. And what they then did was, as they were doing that, they were starting to drill holes all the way on the front of the hillside down. And I asked, what's going on? So we're building this house here. And I said, how so? He goes, oh, we're going to be putting up a whole retaining wall 60 feet down, and we're going to remove all this earth, and we're going to build this house on a flat concrete pad. And I'm like, what? And then proceeded the next year and a half, they literally removed the entire mountain and built the house next door to me. And I started to make the connection, saying, wait a second. I started thinking about Jay Sebring and the apparition and thinking, oh my good God, he wasn't pointing towards the street leaving the property. He was pointing towards the property directly next door to my home that was going to incur a lot of stress and stresses on my property, because they literally spent a good 8 months clearing out the entire mountain. And in so doing, my house was literally shaking like an earthquake while we were doing this.
Yeah. This is a room where a lot of activity happens. I mean, literally, when you have company here, as well as when this is like the paranormal activity.
Right. Well, the figurines get knocked over.
So these figurines on top of David's aquarium just fall over randomly, not just once or twice. And I've looked at these things up close. The other ones are not glued down. I mean, this is legitimately, this stuff just happens a lot. So much so that David has a camera on them 24/7 to record these. This one is from January of 2023. But wait, there's more.
And remember, on the 50th anniversary, one of the large Beetlejuice figurines was standing there, and again, the artist Joey Moss was standing right about here. I was standing where the dog was. He was facing the figurines and the aquarium. I was standing here looking at him, talking to him. At 12:20 in the morning on August 9th, the big Beetlejuice figurine literally launched itself from where it's there, landed right here on the ground, right in front of his feet, and the head popped off. God. And I was standing there, and I had just caught in mid-flight. I turned to my left as it's whizzing in the air across. I'm like, what the? And he's sitting here going, that figurine just flew right at me, and I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
And I looked at my watch and it says 12:20, and then I heard a voice say, "This is the time 50 years ago when my body and soul separated."
Sharon's voice?
Yeah, it was clear as well. She goes, "This is the time I died." And I looked at the watch, it said 12:20, and then I looked it up and I looked at your video, and the time frame that she died between was around that. And then she goes, "This is the moment." And I'm thinking, there's no explanation for why that goddamn figurine just flew 8 feet in the air from nowhere, from standing in a stationary position to where he was. And we were the only two here at the time because the event for the 50th had ended at about 11:30. So it was just astounding. And to this day, he still has a difficult time talking about it because it just mixes.
Yeah, it's frightening. Now you have, I see you have cameras posted around the house to record the paranormal activity, so you're not. When something happens, you can review.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened
And
exactly?
people said, "Do you sit there and review it?" I said, "I don't review anything anymore. After the first 3 months of having the stuff here, the cameras here, I got so burnt out on watching the footage because it was like." I said, I don't have the patience or the desire to do this. So when something happens, I write down the room, write down the time, and what happened, and then I review the footage. Otherwise, I don't bother looking at it. I don't really care.
And when people, the footage that you do discover in your recordings, you post them online.
Right, and if I can explain it away through a rational, logical explanation, I don't post it because what's the point of ruining my credibility to post something that I know is false for somebody else to point out that it's false?
Yes, right. Now, and also, the hallway just directly below us is where you had that knock not that long ago. And I would, I'd love to hear that and show me where you have. Would you mind if I posted that?
No,
clip?
please, I'll be happy. Please,
I'd love to post that clip because it's so cool.
By the way, that's the original poster that we had somebody had done, and I made it into a poster. That's what that photo, that print, the artwork was based on.
This guy, I love how colorful everything is.
I'm telling you, Joey, he's in Palm Springs, as a matter of fact. I have to introduce you to him because he's got pieces of art that he's made of other people. Oh, yeah, thank you, Sharon. She goes, there's this Jim Morrison because Joey knows I love Morrison. He made this piece of art of Jim for me as well.
And by the way, David can pick up on these people, and they talk to him. So he's
not Morrison. I wish to God, this son of a bitch, I would love to hear from, but no, I've never heard from him. This is a great piece. I still can't believe I own this because this is like an original 1968 full 6-foot poster, a 5-foot poster of Morrison, and it's in mint condition. I still can't believe I found that. I'm just a sick, diehard Doors fan, to be honest with you, as this hallway would completely show you the fact of, because I just,
So is this the point you were coming this way in this hallway, right?
I'm walking down this hallway, and this is what the action is. I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm thinking to myself, not speaking out loud, I said, "Spirits, I got you covered," and I threw my hand up. Mind you, I had just come out of the laundry room, and I'm walking down. You can hear the sound of the washing machine and the spin cycle, and I go, "Spirits," I'm thinking, "Spirits, I got you covered," and I throw my hand up, and right about here, I hear. And I just caught me so by surprise. I'm like, and I'm sitting there staring into the video camera, and I'm thinking, what the hell was that? And I'm thinking, it's a burglar. I said, wait a second, a burglar? What burglar is gonna sit there and knock and say, "Hi, I'm here, I'm robbing you," and I'm like,
what time of day was that?
1:45 in the morning.
Okay.
And I sat there, and I'm in my shorts and my t-shirt, and I'm like going. And as quickly as I thought that it's a burglar, I said, "That's not a burglar. What burglar's going to do that?" And I said, "Oh crap! It's the ghosts. There's something. We're not alone. Let's put it that way."
So this is the crazy vertigo.
Yeah, this
walkway.
is the crazy vertigo hallway.
I've been in this hallway.
It's I definitely feel its presence right now. My head's getting a little bit squished, like pressure in the sinuses. How about you?
No, but I'm tuning it out too.
You're trying to block it.
Yeah, I am.
Take a step up on the landing. Just take the walk, obviously take the walk and see if there's a change in what your perception or what you're feeling, blocked or not.
Yeah.
Do you notice anything?
I just had another battery malfunction. He's okay. Down this hallway. So that's twice since I've been here, the battery malfunction. So now I'm on my phone, and hopefully this thing won't crap out on me. But at least I have the charger for this one.
Spirits, don't mess with the phone. Please leave the battery good. It's really important you don't mess with that because he's not going to be able to shoot this, and he doesn't want to have to come back to LA just to do this finish.
So so people get disoriented down this hallway. It's a See, I had it happen before, but I'm not tuned into it right now. I'm not relaxed.
I'm feeling my one foot resting on the landing here.
Yeah.
It's just I'm feeling like pressure in my sinuses, as a lot of times people express.
Yeah. I definitely feel something in my belly, but it's probably my fat.
You feel the pressure also. It's they're letting you know. As much as you want to block it, it's still permeating through you. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
All right.
I think they're happy to see you is what I'm getting, Scott.
So you're saying our buddy over here is not going to go downstairs?
No, he will never. And I mean, he's been here for 11 and a half years. He refuses to go down the stairs. Inside the house or even on the outside staircase, he will not go down. And watch what happens. As soon as we start going down the stairs, and no, by the way, I did not train him to do this. It's his desire. Watch what happens. As we start to walk downstairs, he'll turn around and look at us, and then he'll, look. Reggie,
No
we're
way.
downstairs. Come on, Reggie, let's go downstairs. Come on.
No
Yes,
interest.
No interest whatsoever in coming down.
Sort of like me.
Yeah. How many times have I been down here with you? And Scott says, I'll go upstairs. I was like, Scott, we're here. He goes, no, I'll go upstairs. I'm happy to be going upstairs. No problem. So this is the third level. This is the theater room and UCLA Man Cave. I have to apologize for the way it's looking right now. This is all left over from the theatrical seance event that was here last Friday night on the 12th.
But this is the crazy screamy room, right? The lady was like weeping in here.
She was up here. She walked. The video shows her going up like this, and then she stops and she comes back and takes a step here, then comes back here and starts to go like this again. And then she comes back here and walks over to here, and then literally she pushes. Her face is like pressed up against the mirror, and she starts howling. Well, it's all negative. I mean, the negative. I mean, the readings on the slide field are all negative. Every single one of them is negative readings. 465 milligallops negative. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? She goes, and that was the whole video. You can share with your audience what took place here. And I was like, oh.
That was fascinating. That was
Crazy.
really, really interesting.
It was nuts.
Yeah. Show me the dirt.
I'll show you the dirt. Since you're interested in the dirt at the Oman house, might as well follow me into the dirt room. I like to call it the earth and wall room, but you prefer to call it the dirt room. Yes. This is the underside of the house, and yes, it is unique to this. Whoa! What the hell was that? It's very unique to this house is that fact that we have this room that is still left unprotected. And this room has got crazy stuff that's happened here. That's why I have 3 cameras in the room. We've had a bottle of wine come out of the wine rack on its own. I had that butcher block that you see over on the counter before that was all developed as a kitchenette. Mm-hmm. There was a storage room, and that was sitting on a television set. And on one of the videos, one of my guests was in here. He decided to go and shut the door. So as he's shutting the door, that 10-pound piece of butcher block spins off the television set and lands on the ground and blocks the door from opening. That
That's
It's an
crazy.
interesting experience.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he said to me
That's
later on, he goes, it was
terrifying.
the greatest experience of my life. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, I've always wanted to see real paranormal, activity
yeah.
in front of me. And I said, that just blew my mind. And when you watch the video, there's no explanation rationally why the 10-pound piece of butcher block would spin off the television set on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to look far for proof of paranormal activity
Not
in this house.
They're
No.
ready, willing, and able to let the humans know that they're real.
And yes, most definitely. And I've seen, last time I brought a couple of people up here and you were kind enough to show them around. I was sitting on the sofa in here having a conversation with whoever it was, and they're blinking the lights for me.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's interesting because we came in the room, the lights were turned on, but they weren't on. Now they're fully on.
Yeah. Yeah, just go ahead. Who's in here? Anyone in here? Blink all the lights. I'm like, okay, I'll be upstairs.
Yeah,
Here's another one of my favorites. David comes down the stairs and he tries to get in that door in the center of the frame, and it's inexplicably locked. And watch closely at the recliner chair just to the right of the door.
okay, my ears are just very, very much pressure here. What do you mean no signal, Joe? What the fuck? Okay, check this out. I'm getting a little freaked out now because did you just see that? That just opened on its own, kids.
Now we got to talk. Let's go back upstairs and talk about your movie.
Let's do that.
Because I really want to hear about it. David produced a movie, directed a movie.
No, produced and wrote. I co-wrote, created the story, and I produced the film and self-financed it.
And it is the story of you.
A fictionalized account of me, of a guy who buys a house on a private drive where this infamous murder took place some years earlier, and he doesn't know his house is haunted.
So it's already, the house is completed.
Yes.
By the time the movie starts. It's not like you built it for the movie.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I didn't build it for the movie, but.
It says you.
But there's a poster from the movie.
Yep. And that's a great poster because that's signed by the entire cast.
I see, yeah.
And of course, the most famous of them is Lance Henriksen, who's in it.
I want a house. A big house. This is it. 4,200 square feet. Very modern.
I thought you said nobody came up here. Some tourists at the gate at the end of the drive taking pictures. You say you worked on this place? What can you tell me about it?
The place is too new to have any kind of history.
You know what I'm talking about.
There was some.
Give me a break. Listen, I don't know what's going on with the wiring. I need someone to come check it out.
I'll show you the breakers are down in the basement. The wiring in this house is really screwed up.
Hey, your luck just changed, old buddy.
It is so peaceful and quiet here.
That's one of the reasons I decided to buy an Oxford Canyon.
This is where the DeWitt murders took place.
Did the murders take place on this property, Robert?
No, not this property, not here. The property at the end of the drive.
36 years ago, in a house somewhere in this canyon, 4 people were brutally murdered.
Did anyone happen to notice the date these murders took place?
July 29th, 1969.
36 years ago. Tonight.
Let's get this party started.
Someone's gonna die tonight. Someone's gonna die tonight.
And I've got everybody else from the BS.
See, there's Ellen Gear. She was. I want to meet her so bad.
She reprises the role of the psychic that's basically talking about the history of this area and the fact that there's time vortexes on the property and stuff, which is the setup for the movie, which is kind of interesting to say the least. She was great. Ellen was such a consummate professional, and she dressed in the attire that she looked like she was a quote-unquote real real, authentic psychic. It was amazing, and she was so good. She was great to work with, as well as Lance. I mean, the two most senior professional actors in the film really, to me, made the film much, much better than it ever could have been.
So talk about the plot. You film it here, you film in this house, you shoot on Cielo Drive, and without giving away too much of it, because I think people should see it, and I'm going to put a link in the trailer to it.
Yeah.
But the basic
story is a guy buys this house on a private drive. He doesn't know the place is haunted. Things start happening to him, and he starts questioning his own sanity. Is it practically really happening, or is it all being played out in his mind and he's just making this stuff up? As he starts to get more knowledge of the area and starts to investigate, he starts to notice that the houses that are 3 houses down from him are now all of a sudden for sale. And it's like, these houses are all empty. And then he starts to realize and finds out that the realtor knew the story of the area. And as the realtor says, he goes, why are you blaming me for something that happened 46 years ago down the street from your house? Because I'm not, he goes, nowhere in the real estate guide does it say that I'm supposed to tell you about murders that happened 46 years ago, 4 houses down the street from your house. Yeah. In the meantime, the reason that it's happening is because the spirits that were killed down the street are paying visit to him in seeking some kind of, let's say, resolution. Meantime, the night that he ends up, the night of this dinner party that he has with his realtor friend and his realtor friend's girlfriend and this blind date, happens to be the anniversary of the tragedy that took place down the street. Again, in the story, that is.
House at the end of the drive.
House at the end of the drive, where the movie's title came from. So they go into the property and they start investigating. And the 4 of them split up into 2 groups. And through circumstances, one case, one got James Oliver, playing David King, has to go relieve himself in the bathroom. And with the realtor and his girlfriend, he basically wants to goose and scare the hell out of her, so he hides away. So now you've got 4 individuals separated by happenstance circumstances, and they're all in different parts of this house under remodel, which is basically the true story of the Sharon Tate murders. The house was bought, they tore the house down, left 2 bearing walls and the original floor from the kitchen of the Tate house.
Just to clarify, the original house that stood at 10050 Cielo Drive was destroyed in 1993. Now, in the state of California, if you leave standing 1 load-bearing wall, you can build an entirely new house around it, as is the case on Cielo Drive. So the modest ranch-style home is now a 17,000 square foot Mediterranean villa, but it counts as a remodel. So they left at least 1 load-bearing wall.
In my movie, there's 1 bearing wall that we've left in the house, and they get away with a remodel and build the house. And as they're separated into different parts of the house, all of a sudden, the house goes through a metamorphosis, let us say, and they're transported back to the day of the murders, and they become the 4 victims of the horrible crime that took place at the end of the street. And they're all like doubting, what is this? This has got to be some kind of a hallucination. Then they realize this is no hallucination. They are, for all intent and purposes, the victims. And they know what's going to happen, so they decide they're going to try to figure a way to quell this murder and try to put an end to it.
That was wild. So the 4 people represented the 4 real victims, and they knew what was going to happen to them that night.
Right.
So that is so wild that they got involved. I love this, that they got to that wall, that original wall that was in the original house, and just sort of became representatives of those victims.
Right. I kept the Sharon Tate character as Sharon. I took the Abigail Folger victim, and I turned Abigail into the heiress to the not to the coffee empire, but to a restaurant chain. So I kept the characters in tow, but I did not want to say Abigail Folger, Jay Sebring, Sharon Tate. It just, to me, rang not true. It wasn't being respectful to Sharon, because in my estimation, if I'm going to lock into the historical credentials of the murders and I'm going to use their being representative. I don't want to go and then have to then owe responsibility to having Manson portrayed and talking. It's something like what they did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I wanted no reference. In actuality, it was done in a way to venerate the victims without bringing undue attention to the murderers, the real murderers, and giving them more unsolicited attention about them, because they're still alive. And the people that I'm representing and I'm concerned with are the victims. So we have Jay Sebring there. He's the costume designer to the stars, not the hairstylist to the stars. We have Abigail Folger. We have Sharon Tate. And I took out Wojtek Frykowski and I put in Roman Polanski's character. And the motivation for the murders that are going to take place in my movie are based upon a whole unique storyline that has nothing to do. However, I do have the historical accuracy of saying 1 male and 3 females were involved in the murders, for real. Well, in my story, I have not Tex Watson, but I have the character that resembles, there's the emulation of Charlie Manson and his 3 female cohorts.
It's on, what's it on right now?
It's on Vimeo right now. House at the end of the drive. There is no "the" in front of it. It's just House at the end of the drive. And it's where they died.
And you've got, I know I asked you this years ago about the Amityville Horror connection.
My executive producer, Paul Mason, was the executive producer for Amityville 2 through 15.
Cool.
And what he said is
15.
There were 15, yes. They went straight to DVD by after number 10. But they did have a franchise. And Paul said to me, he goes, unlike the Amityville Horror House, which they actually went into one time. He said, we got to go in there one time with the ABC film crew. And it's famous because there's an infamous moment where their camera is panning across the second floor, right past the staircase. And one of the doors in the bedrooms is opened about this much, and there's a kid's face poking
I remember
his head
that
out.
clip, yeah.
And Paul said, when we were in that house, there was no one under the age of 21 years old, period, on site. We were all adults. We had the small little film crew, and I was there because I wanted to be part of this to see what was going to happen if we were going to get an opportunity to go into the Amityville Horror House, the real house, and investigate. And he goes, I'll tell you, David, that shit scared the crap out of me, because we went through that house after we shot that and there was no sign of any child on the premises at all.
That's
wild. And he goes, unlike the Amityville Horror story, he goes, we had one opportunity to go and investigate and get in there, and that was it. He goes, in your house, you're able to bring people in one at a time or in groups anytime you like.
Yeah.
And because your house has so much activity and the 9 television shows we've been on in the U.S., he said that should give you a leg up on marketing and publicity, because your house is haunted and we can come in and bring in press conferences and the media to come and investigate and check it out, and it never ever disappoints.
I'm kind of hoping one of those figurines is going to come down now.
Come on, guys, shake a leg. Scott's here. You know Scott very well. He hasn't been here in a long time. Could you give him a little, I don't want to say a show, but could you show him that?
Just a hello,
Just a hi, how are you? Knock a figurine over, just anything for him. It's really important that he gets that opportunity to
That's okay. I mean, they probably wouldn't want to, but it would be really fun.
You'll leave. 5 minutes later, I'll hear this bam. And I'll go, oh, thanks. You're a little late on the uptake.
This is basically crime scene. This is the law enforcement, I think, are there.
Yep.
And these are the 2 houses. This is the Cott's house. This is the Asen house, and then this is your house.
This is before we started building. This is in 2002.
Yeah.
1999 when we bought the lot, and you can see the Asen house is still there, and the Cott house is still here, and then there's a new house in between. But that's it. So these 2 are similar photographs taken from similar locations, just 30 years apart.
Yeah. The layout's still the same.
Yeah.
What year were these taken, David?
This picture was taken in 1998, like January of 1999. So you can see that the hillside is there, but you can't see any of the actual construction. What we did was we removed the earth and we exposed the construction that had started prior, some 15 years earlier. And
so down here,
that is the 3rd level. That's the earthen wall room right there.
And the end of the road is
where the Tate house once stood.
Yeah, that was back when the wine shop still owned it, huh?
Right.
So you've got
houseattheendofthedrive.com. The people want to learn about this house and see the clips.
It's youtube.com/David Oman, O-M-A-N. Also, there is ghostsofcielodrive.com, which is the book. And then, of course, there's theomanhouse.com if people are really interested in getting in touch with me and want to call or want to email me about setting up a private investigation or rental of the house.
I've been to that. I've been to a couple of those, and they are good fun.
They're fun.
Yeah, they are. So, and everything, if you go to theomanhouse.com, all your links are there.
Yes, they should be all there.
To be able to get the movie, to be able to get your book, to be able to see the clips from this house.
Yeah.
But you've been so nice to me over the years, and letting me bring people up here, and I appreciate it. And it's a real treat to know you, and I'm glad that we're friends, because otherwise I'd be your enemy, and you'd be throwing things. You'd be throwing things at me.
I don't think so, Scott. I don't think you're a person that I would ever feel that way towards at all. You are the utmost in respect and appreciation of those people whose stories and lives were cut short.
I gotta ask you.
Yeah.
On before Tarantino, before they filmed up here, what's the difference on the night of the anniversary every year? When I was in the 80s, I used to come up here, and there was never anyone up here. It was just me and a buddy. We'd go to the El Coyote, then we walk up to the gates and we walk away.
Right.
You know, that's just what we did. And towards like the, I don't know, the 30 or 40th anniversary, that's when it started getting weird. There were some really odd people coming up here on the anniversary. Now, in the last few years, what's the difference since then after the movie came out? I mean, or what's the weirdest thing you ever saw up here?
One anniversary I'll never forget. I walked outside and I hear voices coming up the driveway. And it's not one or two, it's like a couple dozen. And they're all dressed in black. And I'm like, this doesn't look right. I said, they're all dressed in black from head to toe. And I'm like going, woo. And they all were quietly started, as soon as they rounded the corner, they saw me, they all was like, quieted up and just walked in a mass to the end of the driveway. And I'm like this, looking down and going, are they gonna do something? Is this something gonna happen? Are they gonna? And they just walked up, said a few things, and then again, in quiet congregation, they walked down the driveway. And I'm like, that's tripping me out. I've never seen anything like that.
Over the years, along with tourists that you've allowed me to bring up here, we brought a couple of celebrities.
Yes.
Bridget Marquardt from The Girls Next Door.
And the other girl from The Girls Next Door was here. I think it was
Holly.
Holly, not Holly.
Kendra?
Kendra was here. You brought Kendra and Bridget came here the very first time. And I was like, and I'd heard from Dr. Taff, he said, Kendra's got a lot of paranormal activity that follows her.
Yeah.
And she came to the house and nothing happened. So we've also had Sylvester Stallone and Frank Stallone. We've had Kesha, which you brought over here. She came to the house and she had an experience.
That was a surprise. Yeah, we were just across the road, and I go, I could call David. She goes, okay, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, she was great. The most curious and interesting, and this is not to diminish the value of those celebrities that have been here, but the most unique and interesting person that's ever been to this house that comes to my mind is former Manson family member Diane Lake.
Snake.
Was that Snake?
Snake, that was her name, Snake.
No, I know the name Snake in the family. I didn't realize, make the connection that Diane was Snake, but...
Well, thank you very much for opening your doors. Thank you for sharing this little guy. What's his name again?
Reggie.
Hey, Reggie.
Don't
Sweet
give me
boy.
that. He's going to hear your eyeball look out of the corner of his eye like, what do you want? Reggie.
Sweet boy.
You're a sweetheart, Bubba.
You're a sweet boy. Oh, sure. Yes, you are.
You're my baby. Yo, give a stretch. Give a stretch. Give a stretch. Stretch. Come, Reggie, stretch. That's the ticket.
Ooh.
That's my boy. Yes, your daddy's baby.
Oh, no, you've been great, David. Thank you so much.
Oh, Scott, thank you for coming here. Come on.
I'm going to show your poster.
Yeah, please.
There's a big poster over here because I want
in front of the house, you mean?
Well, oh yeah, of course.
That's
And
what it is.
yeah,
The big poster.
Oh, I thought this one, but no, that's the
This
that's
one,
the poster.
this is for the book. This is my book,
Okay.
Goes to Seal and Drive. That's the book that I wrote because of all the
Which is
stories.
a really fun book to read.
Oh, it's great. I've never had any bad remarks about it or any feedback or any critics that said this is a bad book.
Yeah.
And everybody has really enjoyed it because I just told my story from the first person narrative without without embellishing, because there's no need to embellish the truth.
Yeah.
You know,
The truth is good enough. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, there's the original House at the End of the Drive poster, and then the Oman House poster that I've got.
If you look in the description below this video, you'll see the link so you can rent the House at the End of the Drive online. You can see the links to David's book and to David's house and how you can actually have a private tour to this house and some of the clips of the crazy stuff that's happened in that house. I hope you enjoyed this video and this interview, and please continue to enjoy David's work. All the links again in the description below. So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And until next time. You heard me.